In the dead of night, beneath a sprawling city skyline that shimmered like a constellation of shattered dreams, a solitary figure stood on the balcony of an opulent penthouse. The rain pounded relentlessly against the floor-to-ceiling windows, as if nature itself were weeping for the broken promises and hidden truths of a world ruled by power and deception. This was no ordinary night. It was the threshold of a destiny that would forever alter the lives of those caught in its web. Lily. Carter, a name whispered in hushed tones among the elite, had always felt the weight of her past pressing down on her like an invisible shroud. Now, as she gazed out at the luminescent chaos of the city below, every flash of neon and every rumble of thunder seemed to echo the turmoil in her soul. Inherited from a legacy that was as much a curse as it was a gift, her late father's art gallery had been her sanctuary, a haven filled with masterpieces and memories. But since that fateful day, when the gallery became both her inheritance and her burden, Lily found herself adrift in a turbulent sea of obligation, sorrow, and mounting peril. The luxurious surroundings of her new life were a paradox. On one hand, they exuded the grandeur and elegance expected of someone born into the upper echelons of society. Lavish chandeliers, gleaming marble floors, and meticulously arranged floral displays painted a picture of perfection. Yet beneath, this polished veneer lay a labyrinth of secrets, betrayals, and internal conflicts that gnawed at her with relentless intensity. Each meticulously decorated room whispered a story of past glories, now overshadowed by imminent disaster. A silent prelude to a romance as doomed as it was passionate. Lily's eyes, reflecting the glow of the city lights, betrayed the inner chaos that few could fathom. With every step she took across the cold, polished floor, the echo of her footsteps became a metronome counting down the seconds to an inevitable confrontation with her fate. Her heart, once buoyed by dreams of a life filled with art and beauty, now beat in a discordant rhythm, pounding with both fear and an inexplicable resolve. It was in these moments of solitude that the true weight of her inheritance revealed itself. Not only was she responsible for preserving the legacy of a storied past, but she was also the unwilling keeper of mysteries that stretched far beyond the mere sale of priceless art. A chill ran down her spine as she recalled the whispered rumors about her family, a history interwoven with scandal, betrayal, and tragedy. Her father's gallery was more than just a repository of art. It was a repository of secrets. Secrets that, if unearthed, could unravel the fabric of everything she had ever known. And now, in the silence of the penthouse, those secrets loomed over her like specters of a bygone era. The elegant facade of her life was cracking, and with every passing moment, the threat of exposure grew ever more imminent. Just as the storm outside reached a crescendo, a soft chime from her antique grandfather clock punctuated the night, a reminder that time, merciless and unyielding, waited for no one. In that chime, Lily sensed both the relentless march of destiny and the silent plea of her own inner voice, urging her to confront the demons of her past. There was an unspoken promise in the air, a vow that she would no longer allow herself to be a passive victim of fate. Tonight, she resolved, the chains of her inherited legacy would either bind her or set her free. As she turned away from the window, the sumptuous interior of the penthouse loomed before her, a dazzling arena of luxury where every detail was designed to dazzle yet conceal. The deep, velvety shadows in the corners of the room were like old confidants, holding the secrets of whispered conversations and hidden betrayals. It was here, in the interplay of light and darkness, that the true story of her life would unfold, a tale of forbidden love, ruthless ambition, and the perpetual struggle between what is inherited and what is chosen. Lily's thoughts drifted back to the day she first received the letter, a letter that had sealed her fate and thrust her into a world where beauty and brutality coexisted in a delicate, dangerous balance. The letter had arrived with no warning, its crisp paper and elegant script belying the devastating news it contained. In an instant, the quiet life she had once known was shattered, replaced by a maelstrom of obligations, suspicions, and a relentless quest for truth. The contract that bound her to a destiny she had never chosen was more than just a legal document. It was a symbol of the cost of survival, a price paid in heartache and uncertainty. There, in the depths of her solitude, a spark of defiance ignited within her. The very notion of surrender, of succumbing to the forces that sought to control her, was anathema to her spirit. Every fiber of her being screamed for liberation, for the chance to reclaim not only the gallery but her own identity. Yet, in the quiet recesses of her mind, she could not shake the lingering question. What dark forces had conspired to make her the unwilling keeper of such a cursed legacy? And more chillingly, what was the true price of uncovering those secrets? In that moment, as the rain continued its relentless drumming against the glass and the city pulsed with an almost sentient rhythm, Lily realized that her journey was just beginning. The promise of a new dawn was tempered by the threat of eternal night, a night filled with specters from the past and the promise of an uncertain, tumultuous future. The internal battle waged within her was both a solitary struggle and a prelude to a much larger confrontation, one that would test the limits of her resolve, her ingenuity, and her capacity for love. Thus, with the storm raging outside and the weight of destiny pressing in from all sides, Lily Carter stepped forward into the unknown. The penthouse, with all its grandeur and mystery, became a silent witness to her vow. To face the darkness head-on, to unearth the secrets that had long been buried beneath layers of opulence and deceit, and to redefine her legacy on her own terms. In that act of defiance, the spark of a revolution was lit. A revolution that promised to shake the very foundations of the world she once believed to be unassailable. And so, as the first light of dawn began to break through the stormy night, the stage was set for a saga of love and betrayal, of power and redemption. A saga that would captivate hearts, provoke thought, and leave an indelible mark on the souls of all who dared to listen. Before the storm of present-day chaos, Lily Carter's life was defined by the whispered echoes of her family's illustrious past, a past that both uplifted and haunted her. In the heart of a bustling metropolis stood the venerable Carter Art Gallery, a magnificent edifice that had once been the crown jewel of her father's passion and vision. The gallery wasn't merely a building of brick and mortar, it was a living museum of memories, a curated collection of masterpieces that chronicled a lineage steeped in beauty and artistic excellence. Every brushstroke on the canvases, every sculpted curve in marble, was a testament to her father's unyielding commitment to art, a legacy that Lily had inherited, and with it, the monumental responsibility to safeguard. As a child, Lily would wander through the gallery's expansive halls, mesmerized by the interplay of light and shadow dancing over the canvases. Her father, a man of refined taste and quiet dignity, had always spoken of art as if it were a sacred scripture, each piece a verse in the epic of life. Yet, as the years passed and the gallery's legacy grew, so did the weight of expectation. The pride that once shone in the eyes of patrons and critics alike became a double-edged sword, a symbol of both promise and peril. With her father's untimely passing, the gallery transformed from a sanctuary of creativity into a battleground where memories were pitted against the harsh realities of survival. Financial pressures mounted like relentless tides crashing against an aging shore. The once thriving gallery now teetered on the brink of collapse, its future uncertain amid a rapidly changing art market and the rising costs of maintenance. Lily found herself wrestling with the overwhelming burden of debt and dwindling patronage, her every decision shadowed by the fear of losing not just the physical space, but the soul of her family's heritage. The gallery, with its priceless collections and storied past, was more than a business. It was the embodiment of her father's dreams, a fragile link to a bygone era that now seemed to be slipping through her fingers. In the midst of these mounting pressures, external threats began to cast a long, sinister shadow over Lily's already tumultuous life. Rumors circulated in hushed tones among the elite, a mix of envy and malice aimed at tarnishing the Carter name. Competitors, emboldened by the gallery's vulnerability, launched aggressive maneuvers to wrest control of the treasured estate. Investors and board members, quick to seize any hint of weakness, whispered of financial restructuring and corporate takeovers. Every news headline, every scandalous rumor in the tabloids, deepened the fissures in an inheritance that was already fragile. Yet it wasn't just the world of business that loomed ominously on the horizon. There were darker, more personal dangers at play. The legacy of the gallery was entwined with secrets that had long been buried, mysteries that hinted at betrayal, and hidden rivalries. There were murmurs of a clandestine feud, a bitter conflict that had simmered beneath the surface for decades. Some said that the gallery's true value wasn't measured solely in art, but in the power it conferred upon the Carter family, a power that could attract enemies as swiftly as it inspired loyalty. These threats, both seen and unseen, gnawed at Lily's resolve. Every creak in the gallery's old floorboards, every faded portrait that seemed to watch her with knowing eyes, served as a stark reminder of the stakes at hand. Emotionally, Lily was caught in a tempest of conflicting feelings. The gallery was her sanctuary and her prison, a repository of cherished memories and relentless reminders of loss. With every passing day, the pressure to honor her father's legacy collided with the harsh realities of the present, leaving her torn between duty and desire, hope and despair. The art that once inspired her now seemed to whisper warnings of impending doom. In the silent corridors of the gallery, where the past lingered like a ghost, Lily could almost hear her father's voice urging her to persevere, even as the world around her conspired to pull her under. Amidst the financial strain and the relentless onslaught of external pressures, Lily's internal battle grew ever more ferocious. The responsibility of preserving the Carter legacy was not just a burden, it was a call to arms. It demanded resilience, sacrifice, and the unyielding courage to confront the unknown. With every new threat emerging from the shadows, Lily felt the chasm between the legacy of her past and the uncertain future widen. Yet, even as the forces arrayed against her multiplied, there remained an ember of determination within her, a quiet promise that she would fight, even if the battle meant sacrificing everything she held dear. The foundation of her family's legacy, with its exquisite beauty and heart-wrenching sorrow, had set the stage for the tumultuous journey that lay ahead. As the gallery's ancient walls bore silent witness to the struggle between inheritance and identity, Lily Carter steeled herself for the inevitable confrontation with fate, a confrontation that would soon intertwine her destiny with that of a man whose arrival would upend everything she believed about power, passion, and the price of legacy. In a world defined by wealth and ruthless ambition, fate often deals in ironies. For Lily Carter, a chance encounter with a man who embodied both allure and enigma was destined to become the turning point in a life already fraught with turmoil. Enter Adrien Knight, a billionaire playboy whose presence was as commanding as it was mysterious. With chiseled features, a gaze that penetrated the soul, and an air of cool detachment, Adrien was a study in contradictions, cold and calculating on the surface, yet hinting at a depth of emotion and hidden scars beneath. Their first meeting unfolded in a setting as lavish as it was intimidating. A sleek, modern boardroom within a towering glass skyscraper that overlooked the restless city below. As Lily stepped into the room, the ambient light caught the glint of Adrien's impeccably tailored suit, accentuating the sharp lines of his face and the unspoken power he exuded. The room seemed to shrink in his presence, every onlooker instinctively drawn to the magnetic pull of his enigmatic aura. For Lily, whose life had been defined by the warmth of cherished memories and the silent sorrow of loss, Adrien's cold, calculated demeanor was both unnerving and strangely captivating. Their eyes met across a polished mahogany table, a brief moment that spoke volumes before words were exchanged. In that silent instant, the contrast between them was stark. Lily's eyes, filled with a tumult of emotions, fear, hope, and a defiant determination, stood in opposition to Adrien's cool, unreadable stare. It was as if the universe had conspired to pit two very different souls against each other. One, a reluctant guardian of a fading legacy, and the other, a man who had mastered the art of control and command. Breaking the charged silence, Adrien's voice, smooth, measured, and laced with an undercurrent of authority, spoke the terms that would forever alter the course of Lily's destiny. "A contract marriage," he declared, his tone leaving no room for debate. 1 year, no love, no emotions, just a business arrangement. His words, blunt and unadorned, hung in the air like a death sentence, yet paradoxically carried the promise of salvation. To an outsider, it might have sounded like a cold, transactional proposal. But to Lily, it was an ultimatum with layers of irony. Accepting this contract meant surrendering not only a part of her heart, but also risking the very essence of her identity. For Lily, the offer was both a lifeline and a curse. On one hand, it presented a potential solution to the mounting financial crises and the imminent threat to her father's gallery. On the other, it was a stark reminder of the cost of survival, a price measured in the currency of emotional sacrifice and personal freedom. The notion of entering into a marriage devoid of love, where every gesture was governed by contractual obligations rather than genuine affection, struck at the core of her beliefs. It was as if she were being asked to sign away her very soul, to trade the authenticity of her emotions for a chance at preserving her family's legacy. As the details of the contract were laid out before her, the gravity of the situation became all the more apparent. Every clause, every finely printed word was designed to bind her in ways that went beyond mere legal obligation. The document was a labyrinth of stipulations that promised financial rescue in exchange for a controlled, emotionally barren union, a union where personal liberties were sacrificed at the altar of survival. In that moment, Lily realized that accepting the contract was not merely a business decision. It was a gamble with her heart, her dignity, and her future. Adrien's demeanor remained unchanged as he observed her reaction, a mixture of vulnerability and steely resolve flickering across her face. His eyes, dark and intense, betrayed nothing of the inner machinations of his mind. He knew the weight of his offer, and perhaps, in some unspoken way, he understood the profound implications it carried for both of them. The contrast between their worlds, her life steeped in the legacy of loss and the raw emotions of a battered heart, and his existence defined by calculated moves and the relentless pursuit of power, could not have been more pronounced. In that charged moment, as the sterile ambiance of the boardroom bore witness to their silent duel of wills, the seeds of an extraordinary, albeit perilous, alliance were sown. For Lily, the decision was agonizing, a choice between clinging to a fading past or embracing a future fraught with uncertainty, where the cost might be far greater than she had ever imagined. Adrien's offer, while cloaked in the veneer of a lifeline, was also a harbinger of the sacrifices that lay ahead, a reminder that in the world of high stakes and even higher ambitions, nothing came without a price. As the meeting drew to a close, the contract lay on the table like an ominous promise, a testament to the inexorable pull of fate that had brought these two disparate souls together. The silence that followed was heavy with unspoken truths, each moment laden with the anticipation of a future that was as dangerous as it was alluring. In that final, suspended second, Lily Carter faced the defining choice of her life, aware that her next step would forever change not only the legacy of her family, but also the contours of her own heart. Lily's hands trembled as she unfolded the delicate pages of the contract, each word etched in a precise, almost clinical font that belied the gravity of its contents. In that quiet, oppressive moment, the room seemed to close in around her, every shadow and whisper magnifying the dread that was steadily building within. The contract, once seen as a beacon of salvation to rescue her from the suffocating collapse of her family's legacy, now revealed a hidden clause, a sentence that promised the absolute forfeiture of every asset the Carter family had ever owned. It was a clause buried deep within the legal jargon, almost as if it were meant to be missed. But Lily's meticulous eyes caught it. If she failed to comply fully with the rigid conditions of the agreement for even a single day, all of the Carter assets, from the beloved art gallery to every cherished memento of her father's legacy, would automatically transfer into Adrien's control. The words seemed to pulsate on the page, each syllable a hammer blow that shattered her already fragile hope. This was not a lifeline, but rather a gilded trap, meticulously designed to ensnare her into a deal where the stakes were nothing less than everything she held dear. As she absorbed the revelation, an overwhelming sense of betrayal surged through her. Had she been so desperate that she hadn't even noticed the dangerous implications woven into every clause? The more she reread the document, the more she felt as though she were being manipulated by invisible hands. The initial promise of financial salvation now felt like a poisoned chalice, a seductive offer that masked a far darker purpose. In that moment, Lily's heart pounded with both anger and despair, as the realization dawned that she had been deceived. Every decision that led her to this point now felt tainted, a calculated move in a game where she was but a pawn. There was an almost tangible chill in the air as Lily's thoughts raced. Memories of her father's wise counsel, his unwavering belief in integrity, clashed with the stark reality of the contract before her. The betrayal was not just a legal formality, it was a personal affront, a reminder that the very foundation of her existence, the legacy she was entrusted to protect, was at the mercy of a man who might not be what he seemed. Adrien, with his cool, unflappable exterior and promise of resolution, now loomed before her as a figure of sinister intent rather than a savior. As the shock subsided, a series of unsettling clues began to coalesce in Lily's mind. Adrien's demeanor during their meeting, once mistaken for professional detachment, now appeared deliberately calculated, a mask concealing tumultuous secrets. His eyes, dark and unreadable, held a glint that hinted at a depth of knowledge far beyond the boundaries of a simple business arrangement. There was a coldness in his voice, a chilling precision that suggested he had orchestrated every detail of the contract with an agenda that extended well beyond mere financial rescue. The more Lily pondered, the more the puzzle pieces began to align in a pattern she wished she could unsee. It was not just the perilous clause that threatened her family's legacy. It was the subtle ways in which Adrien had steered the conversation, the way his every word carried an undercurrent of irony and hidden meaning. His proposal of a marriage devoid of love, the clinical detachment with which he presented the terms, all pointed to a man who viewed human emotions as liabilities, variables to be controlled rather than cherished. It was a calculated maneuver that stripped away any notion of romance, reducing their union to a mere contractual obligation. Yet, beneath that veneer of calculated coolness, there lingered the unmistakable scent of something far more ominous. Lily's intuition screamed that Adrien was not merely offering her a way out of her financial despair. The contract was a meticulously laid trap, a sophisticated scheme that promised to consolidate his power by seizing every tangible link to her family's legacy. It was as if he had known all along that desperation could lead one to overlook the finer details, that a broken heart could be easily manipulated by the promise of security. And now, with the dangerous clause glaring back at her, the veneer of his benevolence had all but evaporated, leaving only the stark reality of a man who thrived on control and domination. Every line of the contract reverberated with a foreboding finality, each word a step toward an irreversible decision. Lily could almost hear the quiet, sinister laughter of those who had crafted the document, their voices echoing in the recesses of her mind. The legal language, so meticulously crafted, was not meant to be an offer of salvation, but rather an intricate snare, designed to bind her both legally and emotionally. In that moment, the cold calculus of Adrien's proposal transformed into a menacing reminder that sometimes the most attractive promises conceal the darkest secrets. The gravity of the situation settled over Lily like a suffocating shroud. The contract was not just a lifeline, it was a carefully engineered weapon, a means to strip her of her heritage, her identity, and ultimately, her freedom. The betrayal cut deep, more profound than any financial loss could ever be. It was the betrayal of trust, of faith in a system that was supposed to protect her legacy, and the realization that the man standing before her, Adrien Knight, was the architect of her undoing. In that charged silence, every detail of the contract, every carefully chosen word, was laid bare as a testament to the peril that now defined her life. It was the first unmistakable sign that Adrien's role in her destiny was far more complex and sinister than she had ever imagined. As the shadows of the room seemed to close in around her, Lily knew that she was at a crossroads, a point of no return where the choices she made would either shatter her completely or force her to rise and reclaim the legacy that was rightfully hers. The dark allure of Adrien's proposal had now given way to the cold, hard reality of manipulation and deceit. And in that moment, Lily Carter resolved to confront the truth, no matter how perilous the path ahead might be. The announcement of their engagement exploded like a firework in a storm, scattering sparks of scandal that ignited the high society's voracious appetite for gossip. Within hours, Lily Carter's private grief transformed into a public spectacle. Once the engagement was made public, every tabloid and social media feed became an arena where her name and face were splashed across headlines, each word dissecting her vulnerability, each image scrutinizing her every move. In an instant, the sanctuary she once knew crumbled under the weight of relentless scrutiny and the invasive glare of fame. At first, the promise of union with Adrien Knight had appeared as a lifeline meant to rescue her from the suffocating financial ruin threatening her family's legacy. But the moment the engagement was broadcast to the world, it became a double-edged sword. The opulent announcement event was staged in a luxurious banquet hall, adorned with cascading floral arrangements and shimmering chandeliers, a setting that exuded grandeur, yet masked an undercurrent of treachery. Here, amidst the clinking of crystal glasses and the murmurs of elite attendees, the seeds of controversy were sown. Whispers swirled like autumn leaves caught in a turbulent wind. Rumors that Lily, a once private guardian of her father's cherished art gallery, had somehow orchestrated the engagement for personal gain began to surface. Critics argued that she was a gold digger, an opportunist who had traded in genuine emotion for the cold embrace of a lucrative contract. Meanwhile, the elite social circles, notorious for their ruthlessness and insatiable curiosity, seized upon every detail: the lavish venue, the impeccable taste of the decor, and the cool detachment in Adrien's gaze. These observations only fanned the flames of scandal, transforming an intimate agreement into a public drama. As the media frenzy intensified, new characters emerged from the shadows, their appearances adding fresh layers of complexity to an already convoluted narrative. Vanessa, with her piercing eyes and razor-sharp wit, made a dramatic entrance into the unfolding story. Known for her unyielding presence in high society and her long-standing vendetta against those who dared cross her path, Vanessa wasted no time in casting doubt on Lily's motives. With a seemingly casual yet scathing remark whispered behind the elegance of her crimson gown, she implied that Lily's engagement was nothing more than a calculated move, a desperate gambit to cling to a dwindling legacy. Simultaneously, whispers about Damien, a figure whose mere mention sent shivers down the spines of the most powerful, began to ripple through the corridors of power. Once considered a loyal confidant in the inner circles of high finance and art, Damien's past was marred by betrayal and a relentless hunger for control. His sudden reappearance in connection with the engagement stirred a maelstrom of speculation. Some believed that his presence signified a hidden alliance with those who sought to dismantle the Carter legacy, while others speculated that he was poised to seize an opportunity born from chaos. His cold, calculating demeanor, paired with a history of secretive dealings, only served to heighten the tension, making every public appearance a dramatic moment of high stakes. The social media storm was relentless. Every influencer, every gossip columnist, and every critic had a theory, a scandal, or a conspiracy to unveil. Overnight, the digital world transformed into a battleground where opinions clashed like titans. Angry comments, vicious memes, and pointed videos flooded the internet, each designed to shred the facade of elegance that Lily had so carefully constructed. The elite, accustomed to maintaining control over their public image, found themselves grappling with an unpredictable narrative that threatened to redefine their social order. For Lily, this was not just an invasion of privacy. It was a ruthless attack on her identity and the legacy she was desperate to protect. In the midst of this swirling chaos, Lily found herself standing at a crossroads. The engagement, once a potential solution to her financial woes, now loomed as a formidable challenge. The lavish ceremony had been meticulously planned to project an image of flawless union and calculated control. Yet beneath that glittering surface, cracks had begun to form. Every smile, every polite exchange of pleasantries, now felt like a rehearsed performance, a facade hiding deeper, darker truths. The very contract that had bound her to Adrien was being dissected by public opinion, revealing more about the nature of their alliance than either of them had ever intended. The overwhelming pressure began to manifest in subtle yet profound ways. In private moments away from the prying eyes of the media, Lily wrestled with a torrent of emotions. She questioned the integrity of her choices, the authenticity of the love she was forced to feign, and the integrity of the world that had seemingly turned against her. The once sacred corridors of the gallery, which had been her refuge, now echoed with the clamor of judgment and condemnation. And as she sat in the solitude of her penthouse, staring blankly at the headlines that chronicled her every misstep, she felt an ever-growing sense of isolation, a profound loneliness that resonated with the quiet despair of her soul. Amid the swirling rumors and escalating social pressures, the tension between public and private life reached a boiling point. Every whispered word in a crowded room, every disapproving glance at an elegant soiree, served as a reminder that the engagement was no longer just a personal contract. It had become a symbol, a battleground where alliances were forged, reputations were shredded, and the fates of both Lily and the Carter legacy hung precariously in the balance. In that charged environment of glittering opulence and whispered betrayals, the stage was set for a dramatic unfolding of events. The intricate interplay of power, passion, and scandal promised to redefine the very essence of the characters involved. For Lily, every moment was now fraught with danger, every public appearance a test of her resilience and determination. And, as the media circus roared on, one thing was clear. The path ahead would be paved with both heartache and hope, with secrets waiting to be unearthed, and alliances that would either fortify or shatter the legacy she so desperately fought to preserve. In the quiet aftermath of the public storm, Lily retreated into the sanctuary of her dimly lit study, where the soft hum of a forgotten record player blended with the sound of her racing thoughts. Alone in the darkness, every tick of the antique clock felt like a reminder of the relentless pressure bearing down on her. The weight of the world, the scandal, the betrayal, and the looming threat to her family's legacy pressed upon her chest with a force that left her breathless. In that moment, Lily's inner turmoil unfolded like a tempest, a whirlwind of unease, fear, and a fierce determination to safeguard all that she held dear. Her mind churned with questions and doubts. How had everything spiraled so quickly? How could one decision, one ill-fated contract, unravel the tapestry of her life? The gallery, her father's cherished legacy, was now at risk, and with it, the very essence of who she was. As she stared at the framed photographs of her late father lining the mantel, his gentle smile now a distant memory, she felt both the piercing sting of loss and the burning resolve to preserve his honor. The familiar scent of aged paper and ink mingled with the sharp tang of fear, evoking memories of better days when hope had been abundant and the future luminous. In the midst of her solitude, a persistent voice echoed from deep within, a voice that would not let her succumb to despair, It was the quiet whisper of determination, urging her to stand up against the forces conspiring to dismantle her world. Yet, this resolve was intertwined with a raw vulnerability. Every flash of a scandalous headline, every accusatory tweet that had splashed her name across social media, cut her deeply. The betrayal by Adrien, the man who had once appeared as a savior, now left her questioning every promise, every word he had uttered. His calculated calm during their tense exchanges contrasted sharply with the storm raging inside her. One evening, when the silence of the night grew almost suffocating, Lily found herself unable to contain the torrent of emotions any longer. She called Adrien, a decision born out of desperation, a need for clarity, and perhaps a yearning to understand the man behind the mask. His voice answered on the other end, smooth and controlled, yet there was an unmistakable edge that hinted at the complex emotions simmering beneath. "Lily," he began, his tone measured. "I know this is hard, but we must focus on the bigger picture." The words struck her like a cold gust of wind, and she could barely muster the strength to reply. "Adrien, how can you remain so calm? Everything is falling apart, and I feel like I'm drowning in a sea of lies. I trusted you. I trusted you with my family's legacy." Her voice trembled, betraying the fragile mix of anger and sorrow swirling inside her. There was a pause on the other end, a silence laden with unspoken regrets and secrets too heavy to confess. Finally, Adrien's reply came, low and steady. "I never meant to hurt you, Lily. But sometimes, in order to protect what matters, sacrifices must be made. I'm here to ensure that your legacy, our future, isn't lost to those who would use it against us." His words, meant to reassure, instead deepened the fissures within her. How could he speak of protection when every clause of that accursed contract threatened to rob her of everything she held dear? The conversation grew tense, the air thick with conflicting emotions. "Protection?" she repeated bitterly. "Is this what you call it when my family is reduced to a bargaining chip? When every promise you make seems to come with strings attached? I feel betrayed, Adrien. I feel like I'm living someone else's nightmare." For a long, agonizing moment, silence reigned between them. In that pause, Lily could almost picture Adrien's expression, an unreadable mask of stoic resolve hiding a maze of dark secrets. "Lily," he finally said, his tone softer yet laced with an unyielding authority, "I understand your pain. I never expected you to simply accept the terms without question. But know this, there are forces at work that you know nothing about. I've done everything to shield you from that reality." The conversation left Lily reeling. Her mind, already overwhelmed by the constant barrage of doubts and fears, now grappled with the realization that the man who had entered her life as both savior and saboteur was a paradox, a blend of protection and peril. In the echo of his words, she sensed that Adrien's involvement in her destiny was far more convoluted than a mere contractual arrangement. He was entwined in a labyrinth of power struggles, secrets, and hidden agendas that threatened to consume them both. Later that night, as she lay awake in the darkness of her room, Lily's thoughts turned inward. The conflicting emotions that had once been a turbulent storm now began to settle into a cold, resolute determination. She could not allow herself to be swept away by fear or rendered a puppet in Adrien's calculated game. Every instinct in her being screamed for justice, for a reclamation of her own identity and the honor of her family. In a series of vivid daydreams, the gallery transformed into a battleground where the ghosts of her past clashed with the specters of her uncertain future. The once quiet halls echoed with the voices of those who had loved and lost, urging her to fight back. Amid the clamor, a single, persistent refrain emerged: protect the legacy, preserve the honor, and never let the darkness win. As dawn broke, casting long, somber shadows through the curtains, Lily rose with renewed resolve. The journey ahead, was fraught with peril and moral ambiguity, but she was no longer the timid guardian of her father's dreams. Instead, she became a warrior, armed with the fire of determination and the clarity of purpose. The inner tumult that had tormented her now forged a steely resolve to confront the hidden truths and to stand up against the manipulation that threatened to unravel everything she cherished. In that moment of quiet epiphany, Lily understood that her battle was not only against external enemies, but also against the internal demons of fear and doubt. And as the first light of day bathed her room in a hopeful glow, she vowed to navigate the treacherous waters of love, betrayal, and legacy, no matter how painful the journey might be. A sudden chill swept over Lily as she uncovered the first, shocking clue: a faded photograph tucked away in an old ledger from the gallery's archives. The image, blurred by time yet unmistakable in its implication, showed a younger Adrien standing beside a group of shadowed figures at what appeared to be a clandestine meeting. Their faces, partly obscured by smoke and secrecy, hinted at alliances, forged in darkness. This revelation marked the turning point, a moment when the polished veneer of Adrien's public persona began to crumble, exposing a labyrinth of conspiracies that spanned far deeper than Lily had ever imagined. Over the following days, a series of unexpected hints emerged, each one weaving a more complex narrative of Adrien's murky past. Whispers from a trusted art dealer suggested that Adrien's family was long entangled in a web of underground dealings, where art was not only a legacy, but also a currency for power and subterfuge. An anonymous tip led Lily to a dusty, forgotten corner of the gallery's basement, where behind a stack of old canvases, she discovered a hidden safe containing cryptic documents. Among these was a letter bearing the insignia of a mysterious organization, a symbol that sent a shiver down her spine. The letter alluded to illicit transactions and hinted at a vast network of corruption that spanned both high society and the underworld. As the pieces of Adrien's past began to coalesce, it became clear that he was not merely the suave billionaire, playboy the public adored. Instead, he was a man whose life had been shaped by betrayal and ruthless ambition. His involvement in the secretive organization suggested that every move he made was calculated to maintain control over a dangerous empire that extended beyond art and wealth. These revelations deepened the enigma of his character, and Lily found herself caught between conflicting emotions: the desperate need to protect her family's legacy, and the dawning realization that her own fate was now inexorably linked with a man who harbored more secrets than he ever let on. Simultaneously, threats from both within and outside her familiar circles began to surface. An old family rival, embittered by past grievances, emerged from the shadows, intent on reclaiming control over the Carter legacy. His aggressive maneuvers, laced with thinly veiled threats, were designed to destabilize Lily's position and exploit her vulnerabilities. Meanwhile, an anonymous source hinted at an internal saboteur within Adrien's inner circle, a mole who was feeding information to rival factions. The duplicity of those closest to her now intensified the chaos, making every relationship suspect, every whisper a potential prelude to betrayal. Despite the mounting dangers, a spark of fierce determination ignited within Lily. No longer willing to be a passive victim of circumstance, she resolved to seek out the truth at any cost. Late into the night, when the world outside lay silent under the cover of darkness, Lily pored over the documents and photographs she had painstakingly gathered. Her mind raced as she connected the dots between Adrien's obscure past, the covert organization's emblem, and the mounting threats that loomed over her family's legacy. The puzzle pieces, once scattered and incongruous, began to form a coherent picture. A picture that painted Adrien not as a savior, but as a key player in a grander, far more sinister scheme. The decision to pursue the truth came with a heavy price. Every step toward uncovering the conspiracy brought her closer to the danger that lurked in every shadow. Yet the inner conflict that had tormented her for so long now transformed into a resolute purpose. Lily could no longer hide behind the guise of a reluctant heiress. She had to confront the darkness head-on. The once familiar corridors of the gallery, which had been her sanctuary, now became the battleground where she would wage war against the forces determined to usurp her family's honor. One fateful evening, as storm clouds gathered on the horizon and rain lashed against the window panes, Lily made her decision. She would confront Adrien and demand answers about the hidden facets of his past and his connection to the covert organization. With a trembling hand, she dialed his number, a call that felt like a leap into the unknown. The conversation that ensued was charged with tension and raw emotion. Adrien's measured tone clashed with the urgency in her voice as she pressed him for the truth. His evasive answers only deepened the chasm between them, and the silence that followed was heavy with unspoken threats and promises of retribution. That night, as Lily stared out into the stormy night, every flash of lightning illuminated the myriad uncertainties that now defined her future. The decision to uncover the truth was irreversible. She knew that the path ahead would be fraught with peril, that every revelation could shatter her world further. Yet, with each pulse of thunder, she felt an inexplicable sense of resolve, a defiant promise that she would unearth every dark secret, no matter how dangerous the journey might be. In this crucible of betrayal and uncertainty, Lily Carter emerged not as a victim, but as a warrior, poised to challenge the machinations of a hidden empire. The convergence of Adrien's shadowed past, the internal treachery of those around her, and the external threats converging on her family legacy had forged her determination into something unbreakable. And as the storm raged on, both outside and within, Lily steeled herself for the long, arduous battle to reclaim the truth. A battle that would redefine her destiny and, ultimately, the legacy of the Carter name. Under the dim glow of an overcast afternoon, Lily found herself wandering the silent corridors of the gallery, her every step echoing against the marble floors like the heartbeat of a buried secret. In a secluded corner of the gallery, behind a display of lesser-known works, her gaze fell upon a painting that seemed to exude an aura of both melancholy and mystery. The canvas was unlike any she had seen before, a haunting portrait of a woman in a field of withering wildflowers, her eyes laden with unspeakable sorrow and quiet determination. Something about it resonated with Lily's innermost fears and the unspoken questions that had long tormented her. Drawn inexplicably to the painting, Lily carefully examined every detail. The brushstrokes were deliberate and raw, capturing an emotion that transcended time. The colors, though muted, pulsated with life, as if hiding the story of a long-forgotten tragedy. A small, almost imperceptible signature at the bottom right hinted that this work was the creation of a mysterious artist whose identity had been lost to the annals of time. Yet, as she stood there, the painting began to reveal its own secrets. A faint inscription, etched in the corner, seemed to whisper a name. Adrien Knight. The revelation sent a shiver down her spine. Adrien Knight, whose untimely death had cast a dark shadow over her family's legacy, suddenly became more than a memory. He was now a key, one that might unlock a labyrinth of hidden truths, connecting his demise to the unraveling of her family's fortunes. With trembling hands, Lily retrieved an old dust-covered notebook from a nearby shelf, a relic of her father's meticulous records, and cross-referenced dates, names, and incidents. The more she delved into its pages, the more a sinister pattern began to emerge. Photographs, faded and sepia-toned, depicted a younger Elliot in various clandestine settings, clandestine meetings in dimly lit rooms, enigmatic glances exchanged, with figures whose identities were deliberately obscured, and moments that suggested more than mere coincidence. Alongside these images were fragments of correspondence, cryptic letters penned in hurried scrawl, and financial records that hinted at secret transactions involving both her family and unknown external players. Each piece of evidence, though, disjointed on its own, formed a mosaic that spoke of betrayal, hidden alliances, and a desperate bid to control a legacy. The weight of the evidence pressed upon Lily, intensifying with every discovery. She began to sense that the mysterious painting was not merely an art piece, but a silent witness to the undercurrents of power and treachery that had festered for decades. It was as if the painting, with its haunting beauty, had been deliberately placed to serve as a message, a final testament from Elliot to the truths he had uncovered before his death. The painting's eyes seemed to follow her as she moved, urging her to piece together the fragments of the past and confront the forces that had conspired to dismantle her family. Late one evening, when the gallery was cloaked in the shadows of twilight, Lily pored over the documents, the photographs, and the faded inscription once more. The dim light cast eerie shadows across the stacks of evidence, creating an atmosphere that was both cinematic and foreboding. Every new detail she uncovered deepened the mystery. A recurring date linking Elliot's final days to a series of unreported transactions, an enigmatic symbol that appeared on several documents, and the consistent presence of a name that had haunted her thoughts. Adrien's. Could it be that Adrien, the enigmatic billionaire who had offered her a lifeline through a cursed contract, was somehow entwined with the events that led to Elliot's tragic end? As the puzzle pieces began to fit together, the tension in the gallery became palpable. The past was no longer a distant memory. It was a living, breathing force, challenging Lily to confront its dark secrets. She felt a mixture of dread and determination surge within her. Each revelation was a double-edged sword, a painful reminder of the betrayal she had suffered, and a catalyst that spurred her onward in her quest for the truth. The corridors of the gallery, once a refuge of beauty and serenity, now echoed with the silent accusations of a history that refused to be forgotten. Lily resolved that night to follow every lead, no matter how treacherous or dangerous it might be. The mysterious painting, with its unyielding gaze and whispered secrets, had become her beacon in the murky depths of deceit. She began compiling every scrap of evidence into a meticulously organized dossier, determined to expose the hidden narrative that had been obscured for so long. The stakes were higher than ever. Beyond mere financial ruin, it was the very soul of her family's legacy that hung in the balance. With each passing hour, the once disparate clues coalesced into a foreboding tapestry. The interwoven threads of Elliot's final days, the covert transactions, and the enigmatic role of Adrien formed a chilling portrait of power, manipulation, and loss. As the night deepened, Lily's resolve crystallized. She would unravel this web of secrets and confront the dark forces behind her family's downfall, even if it meant facing a truth that could shatter everything she had ever believed in. The journey ahead promised peril and heartache, but it was a path she knew she had to walk, to reclaim her past, secure her future, and finally honor the memory of Adrien Knight. A tense chill gripped the mansion as dusk settled, heralding the arrival of those who thrived on chaos and manipulation. Damien and Vanessa emerged like specters from the shadows, their intentions clear in the cold glint of their eyes. They were not mere bystanders in this unfolding drama, but the very architects of betrayal, determined to seize power at any cost and dismantle the fragile bonds that held the Carter legacy together. Damien, with his sharp features and an air of imperious confidence, had always been a looming presence in family lore, a reminder that ambition can be as destructive as it is alluring. Vanessa, equally formidable in her own right, exuded a dangerous grace. Her every gesture hinted at a life spent in the ruthless corridors of high society, where trust was a luxury few could afford. Together, they were a force of calculated malice, orchestrating moves that blurred the lines between personal vendetta and cold strategic maneuvering. The tension reached its apex during a fateful evening at the Carter residence. The grand dining hall, usually a place of familial warmth and unity, had transformed into an arena of cold stares and whispered threats. Lily, caught between the remnants of her once unbreakable family ties and the emerging evidence of deceit, found herself surrounded by those whose loyalty was as fickle as the flickering candlelight. In the midst of this charged atmosphere, Damien's voice cut through the murmurs like a razor. "You've always been too naive, Lily," he sneered, leaning forward with a predatory glint in his eyes. "You trusted in the sanctity of family, when in reality, everyone here is out for themselves." His words, laced with venom, resonated with the dark history of the Carter lineage, a history filled with ambition, broken promises, and the relentless pursuit of power at any cost. Vanessa's laughter, cold and mirthless, echoed in the cavernous hall as she added, "And let's not forget, dear, how quickly allegiances shift when money and influence are on the line. Who are you, if not a pawn in a game you barely understand?" Her tone was both mocking and disdainful, a direct challenge to the ideals Lily had clung to in her desperate bid to preserve her father's legacy. The confrontation escalated rapidly. In a moment of heated passion and vulnerability, Lily turned to Adrien, who had been watching silently from the sidelines, his expression a mix of disappointment and concern. "How could you allow this to happen?" she demanded, her voice trembling between anger and hurt. "I trusted you, Adrien. I believed you were on my side. But now I see. This is all part of your grand design." Adrien's response was measured, his eyes dark and unreadable as he sought to bridge the chasm between them. "Lily, you know nothing of the forces at play," he countered quietly yet firmly. "Damien and Vanessa are not mere intruders. They are remnants of a past that I have long struggled to control. Their actions have consequences, and yes, they have betrayed you. But understand, my intentions have always been to protect what remains of our families." But even as he spoke, the room seemed to pulse with a dangerous energy, each word fueling the fire of suspicion. Lily's face contorted with a mix of anguish and defiance. "Protect me, or protect your own interests?" she shot back. "Every decision you've made has pushed me deeper into this labyrinth of deceit. How am I to trust a man whose loyalties are so murky, whose every promise seems to have a hidden cost?" The verbal duel became a battleground for long-held resentments. Damien, seizing the opportunity, interjected with a sneer. "Look at you two, quarreling as if your union means something more than a fragile alliance. It's pathetic. Your family was doomed from the start, built on the shifting sands of ambition and betrayal." His voice dripped with contempt, as if to underscore the inevitability of their downfall. Vanessa's eyes flashed dangerously as she leaned in close to Lily. "You think you can salvage any of this?" she hissed softly, her words dripping with scorn. "The legacy you hold dear is nothing but a relic, an outdated notion in a world that only respects power. You must choose. Continue clinging to a past that will only destroy you, or embrace the harsh reality and adapt." The air in the hall thickened with the collective weight of shattered trust and the bitter taste of betrayal. In that moment, Lily's inner turmoil surged like a tidal wave. Every whispered accusation, every icy remark tore at the fabric of her identity. Her heart pounded as she tried to reconcile the woman she once was, a guardian of art and family, with the reality of a treacherous game that had ensnared her. Turning to Adrien once more, her voice softened, trembling with emotion, yet resolute in its clarity. "I cannot continue living in a lie," she declared, her eyes locking with his in a silent plea for truth. "If we are to have any hope of salvaging this legacy, we must confront the darkness together. No more secrets, no more hidden agendas. I need to know. Are you truly with me? Or are you merely another player in this dangerous game?" For a long, suspended moment, the silence spoke volumes. Adrien's gaze, heavy with the burden of his own inner demons, finally met hers with an intensity that belied his stoic facade. "I am with you, Lily," he murmured, his voice raw with sincerity. "But know this, to defeat those who would see us destroyed, we must be willing to risk everything, even our hearts." The declaration hung in the charged air, a tentative promise forged in the crucible of betrayal and conflict. As the confrontation reached its climax, the assembled family members and adversaries alike were forced to confront the bitter truth. The battle for the Carter legacy was not merely one of wealth or power, but a struggle for the very soul of those caught in its wake. The lines between friend and foe blurred, and in that moment, every whispered word and icy glare became a harbinger of the chaos yet to come. In that fateful night, as emotions collided and alliances were tested, Lily realized that the path forward was fraught with peril. Yet, amidst the clamor of betrayal and the harsh glare of disillusionment, a spark of determination ignited within her, a resolve to reclaim her legacy, even if it meant facing the darkest corners of her family's past and the treacherous hearts of those who sought to tear it all apart. Under the harsh glare of flickering lights in a deserted archive room deep within the gallery, the truth began to claw its way to the surface, shattering the fragile calm that had masked the darkness for so long. Lily's trembling hands clutched a set of yellowed documents and a faded photograph, artifacts that held the key to the long-suppressed secrets of Adrien Knight's tragic death. In a scene that seemed plucked from a film noir thriller, the room fell eerily silent as each revelation struck like a thunderbolt, exposing a tangled web of betrayal, conspiracy, and despair. The documents detailed an unthinkable collusion between the Carter family and the secretive cabal that had manipulated the fates of the elite for generations. In one particularly damning report, dated back decades, Lily discovered that Adrien Knight's death was no accident. The report hinted at a covert meeting held in the dead of night, a clandestine gathering where a decision was made to silence him permanently. His demise, it appeared, was orchestrated by forces with far-reaching ambitions, forces that also had their tendrils wrapped around Adrien's mysterious family. The same signature emblem that had haunted the mysterious painting reappeared in these records, a symbol now unmistakably tied to a powerful underground conspiracy. As Lily pieced together the fragments of the past, a chilling realization took hold. The dark secret behind Elliot's death was entwined with Adrien's lineage. The documents revealed that Adrien's family had, for generations, been both custodians and manipulators of forbidden power, engaged in secret deals and ruthless power plays that blurred the line between survival and cruelty. The connection was explicit, a legacy of covert transactions, hidden alliances, and a willingness to sacrifice anything, even human life, to preserve their status. Every word on those brittle pages painted a picture of a lineage steeped in deception, a dynasty that thrived on secrets and silenced dissent with ruthless precision. Outside, the relentless patter of rain against the gallery's ancient windows provided a haunting backdrop, as if nature itself mourned the lost souls caught in this grim saga. In the dim light, Lily's face reflected a storm of emotions: shock, grief, and an emerging resolve that burned like wildfire. The revelation of the conspiracy was a brutal awakening, a moment when the carefully constructed world around her crumbled, exposing a sinister underbelly she had never imagined existed. At that very moment, in a series of flashbacks that surged, like fragmented memories, the audience was transported back to that fateful night of Elliot's demise, a montage of shadowy figures, whispered conversations in hushed tones, and the cold glint of a weapon under dim streetlights played out in Lily's mind. These fragments not only revealed the orchestrated nature of his death, but also hinted at a deeper betrayal, a secret alliance between a member of Adrien's inner circle and those who wished to dismantle the Carter legacy entirely. The revelation was jarring. Elliot's murder was not a random act of violence. It was the culmination of a calculated move in a game of power, where every player had a role to serve, no matter how dark. As the evidence mounted, the psychological transformation in both Lily and Adrien became palpable. Lily, who had once clung to the fragile hope of preserving her family's honor, now found herself steeled by a fierce, almost desperate determination. The gentle vulnerability that had once defined her was replaced by a hardened resolve. Her eyes, once soft with memories of lost love and faded dreams, now shone with the cold intensity of someone who had seen the abyss and refused to be swallowed by it. Every piece of evidence, every bitter document, had lit a spark that demanded vengeance, truth, and the reclamation of a legacy tainted by treachery. Adrien, too, was visibly transformed by the revelations. In a private confrontation that took place in a lavish yet dimly lit study within his penthouse, his cool demeanor faltered for a brief, heart-stopping moment. The weight of his family's dark past pressed upon him like an avalanche, his steely eyes betraying a tumult of regret, anger, and the relentless drive to protect what remained of his bloodline. In a hushed yet intense dialogue, Adrien confessed in fragments, "I have carried these secrets all my life. Secrets that I hoped would never resurface. But now, they are tearing us apart." His admission, raw and unguarded, resonated deeply with Lily, creating a paradoxical bond forged in shared anguish and the desire for redemption. The room pulsed with tension as each revelation built upon the last, crafting a crescendo of cinematic intensity. Outside, thunder rumbled as though echoing the gravity of the moment, and inside, every breath felt laden with destiny. The dark past of the Knight family and the betrayal that had led to Elliot's murder were now undeniable forces, driving a wedge between old loyalties and new alliances. The characters stood at the precipice of irreversible change, caught in a maelstrom of emotions that would dictate the course of their futures. In that charged atmosphere, the audience could feel the palpable dread and determination radiating from every word, every whispered confession. The dark secrets had been laid bare, and with them came a sense of inevitability, a fateful convergence of past and present that promised no easy resolution. It was a moment of raw vulnerability, a turning point that set the stage for the battles yet to come. The legacy of betrayal, the cold calculation of power, and the haunting echoes of Adrien Knight's untimely death had all coalesced into a truth that was as devastating as it was transformative. And as the storm raged on outside, inside, in the hearts of those ensnared by this conspiracy, a war for truth and redemption had just begun. The grand hall of the restored Carter Gallery, bathed in the muted glow of ornate chandeliers, had become the stage for the ultimate confrontation. Tonight, every whispered rumor and hidden secret was about to be laid bare. Lily and Adrien, once estranged by betrayal and conflicting loyalties, now stood shoulder to shoulder, united against the common enemy, determined to annihilate their legacies. In the charged silence of the hall, where every shadow seemed to hold a ghost of the past, Damien and Vanessa emerged from the wings like dark specters. Their eyes burned with the arrogance of power long unchecked, and their voices, laced with venom, echoed off the high ceilings. "You thought you could hide forever behind your pretentious notions of honor and legacy," Damien snarled, his tone condescending as he glared at Lily. "But in the end, you are nothing more than a relic of a bygone era, easily swept away by those who truly rule." Vanessa stepped forward, her gaze cold and merciless. "Yes, Lily, your ideals are quaint, but utterly useless in a world governed by power and control. You have allowed yourself to be deceived, and now you are the architect of your own downfall." Her words were a dagger, each syllable intended to wound and undermine the fragile unity that had only just begun to form between Lily and Adrien. At that moment, the tension in the room reached a fever pitch. Lily's eyes flashed with a mixture of anger and sorrow as she responded, her voice trembling with the weight of her convictions. "You think you can manipulate everything and everyone with your schemes? My family's legacy is not a toy for you to play with, and I will not let you destroy what my father built." Her declaration reverberated in the hall, mingling with the storm of accusations that had long simmered beneath the surface. Adrien's presence was both commanding and resolute. His usually impenetrable gaze softened just enough to reveal the scars of his past, the burden of secrets he had carried for so long. "Enough," he said, his voice steady yet imbued with raw emotion. The time for petty squabbles and endless accusations is over. We are faced with a threat that transcends our individual histories. Damien, Vanessa, your relentless pursuit of power has forced us all into this crucible. But tonight, we reclaim our legacy together. The declaration hung in the air, heavy with the promise of unity forged in adversity. In that brief, charged moment, the adversaries faltered, as if the sheer force of collective determination had shifted the balance. The gallery, once a silent witness to centuries of art and forgotten scandals, now pulsed with the heartbeat of an imminent revolution. Lily took a step toward Adrien, their eyes meeting in an unspoken exchange of understanding. I have spent too long fighting alone, burdened by the ghosts of our past, she said softly, the vulnerability in her tone replaced by an unwavering resolve. It is time we set aside our differences. Our enemies have exploited our divisions, but together, we can expose the truth behind this vile conspiracy and protect everything we hold dear. Their words, simple yet potent, kindled a spark that spread like wildfire through the assembled onlookers. In that instant, even some of the dissenters among the family and adversarial factions began to murmur in reluctant assent. The atmosphere, transformed from one of bitter confrontation to a collective defiance, a shared commitment to face the encroaching storm head-on. Damien's eyes narrowed, and Vanessa's lips curled into a bitter smile as they exchanged wary glances. You may have united for now, Vanessa sneered, but do not think that this sudden camaraderie will save you when the real battle begins. Her voice dripped with malice, yet beneath it lay an undercurrent of uncertainty, a flicker of doubt at the unity forming among those she had long taken for granted. Adrien's expression grew even sterner as he advanced, his tone calm, but carrying an unmistakable edge of finality. We are no longer pawns in your cruel game. Every secret, every betrayal will be exposed. The truth about Elliot's death, the hidden alliances, and the dark machinations that have threatened our legacies for generations will come to light tonight. His words resonated with a promise of retribution and transformation, a vow to break the cycle of manipulation and pain. As the confrontation deepened, voices clashed in a symphony of anger, remorse, and a newfound determination. Heated exchanges filled the air, each argument a building block in the towering edifice of the final showdown. Amid the chaos, Lily's heart pounded not only with the fury of betrayal, but also with the fierce hope of reclaiming her identity and the honor of her family. Every accusation that once tore her apart now became fuel for her resolve. In a climactic crescendo, Lily and Adrien pressed forward together, symbolizing the merging of two wounded souls into one formidable force. They issued a final ultimatum to their adversaries. We will no longer allow our pasts to be used against us. Our legacy is not defined by deceit and power hunger. It is defined by truth, honor, and the strength of those who stand united against tyranny. The words echoed through the hall, a clarion call to all those who had suffered under the weight of familial betrayal and unyielding ambition. In that decisive moment, the gallery transformed into a battlefield where the stakes were more than just a family legacy. They were the very souls of those who dared to fight for what was right. The collective will of Lily, Adrien, and their unexpected allies surged against the forces of corruption, and in the heat of the confrontation, every lie, every dark secret, began to unravel. As the final confrontation reached its peak, a profound change took root in the hearts of the protagonists. The bitter divides that had once separated them dissolved, replaced by the realization that only through unity could they overcome the relentless tide of treachery. The old wounds of betrayal started to heal, giving way to a new purpose, to expose the conspiracies that had haunted their lives and to build a future free from the shadows of the past. In that pivotal night, beneath the watchful eyes of history, Lily and Adrien stood resolute, no longer divided by mistrust, but united by the shared dream of a legacy reborn from the ashes of deception. Their determination blazed like a beacon, ready to guide them through the storm that lay ahead, and to prove once and for all that the truth, when embraced, could conquer even the darkest of conspiracies. In the aftermath of relentless scheming and bitter betrayals, the final battle erupted like a storm over the sprawling estate of the Carter Gallery. Under the turbulent skies, and amidst a cacophony of clashing voices, every long-held secret was laid bare, every hidden conspiracy exposed to the cold light of truth. The showdown took place in the gallery's grand atrium, a vast space once devoted solely to beauty and art, now transformed into a crucible of raw emotion and fierce determination. Adrien, standing resolute at the center, became the embodiment of unyielding honor. With every determined step, he led the charge against those who had sought to tear apart the legacy of both his family and Lily's. The air was thick with tension as Damien and Vanessa, the architects of deceit, advanced with a predatory glint in their eyes. Their voices, once dripping with arrogant malice, now faltered in the face of Adrien's unwavering resolve. "Enough of your treachery," Adrien declared, his tone a mix of authority and heartbreak. "For too long our families have suffered under the weight of your lies. Tonight we end this madness, or die trying." His words, ringing like a battle cry, reverberated off the gallery's walls, echoing the unbreakable will of those determined to reclaim their honor. As the confrontation escalated, the long-hidden documents and photographs, once the silent witnesses of dark conspiracies, were thrust into the open. The revelations about Adrien Knight's orchestrated demise and the sinister ties between Adrien's lineage and the covert organization splashed across every surface like splintered shards of a shattered past. The mounting evidence left no room for doubt. The dark network that had manipulated lives for generations was finally unmasked. The conspiracies that had haunted every step of their journey were now a tangible enemy, poised to be vanquished. In the midst of chaos, Lily emerged as a formidable force of determination. No longer the timid heiress burdened by family tragedy, she now radiated fierce resolve. With eyes burning with the intensity of reclaimed purpose, she stepped forward and joined forces with Adrien. "We will no longer be divided by our scars," she proclaimed, her voice steady despite the tumult around her. "Our legacy, our honor, deserves truth and justice. Together we will dismantle every lie that has poisoned our past." In a coordinated surge, Adrien and Lily led their loyal allies into the heart of the confrontation. They intercepted every attempt by Damien and Vanessa to reclaim control. In a series of intense exchanges, words became weapons as bitter accusations and resolute declarations filled the space. The atmosphere was electric, a living, breathing climax where every gesture carried the weight of destiny. Amid the clamor, Adrien demonstrated decisive action, moving swiftly to neutralize threats. When Vanessa lunged forward with a concealed blade, Adrien's lightning-quick reflexes disarmed her, his every move a testament to the sacrifices he was willing to make. It was not just a battle of physical prowess, but of ideals. The two sides clashed in a dramatic melee of strategy and raw emotion. As fists flew and voices rose, the gallery's ornate ceilings and priceless masterpieces bore witness to a struggle that transcended generations. Every swing, every parry was laced with the pain of betrayal and the fierce hope of redemption. Adrien, though battered and bruised, pressed on with relentless determination. Each sacrifice, each moment of personal loss, was willingly borne, in the name of protecting his family's name and the future they all deserved. In a climactic moment that seemed to suspend time, Damien attempted one final, desperate maneuver to wrest control of the legacy. But in that critical instant, Lily, with steely resolve, confronted him directly. "Your greed has blinded you to the truth," she hissed, her voice trembling with both fury and sorrow. "You will never steal what is ours. Our history is built on honor, not your twisted ambitions." Her words cut through the din like a clarion call, uniting everyone in the room against the common enemy. With the combined might of Adrien's calculated strategy and Lily's indomitable spirit, the tide of the conflict turned decisively. One by one, the conspirators' defenses crumbled. In the final moments, as the echoes of battle subsided, Damien and Vanessa found themselves isolated, defeated not only by the force of arms, but by the relentless pursuit of truth. Their reign of deceit ended in a silence that spoke volumes, leaving behind an emptiness where ambition had once reigned. In the wake of the confrontation, the Grand Hall was transformed from a battlefield into a sanctuary of revelation and renewal. The shattered remnants of the past lay scattered like fragments of a long-forgotten era, while Adrien and Lily stood together amid the debris, their faces marked by both exhaustion and fierce pride. Though the immediate threat had been vanquished, the final battle left behind questions that would echo into the future, a promise that not all wounds would be healed overnight. Adrien, still breathing heavily from the intensity of the struggle, took Lily's hand. "We have paid a heavy price tonight," he murmured, his voice laden with both regret and resolve. "But in our unity, we have reclaimed our legacy. This is only the beginning of a new chapter, a future built on truth and honor." His words, though softly spoken, carried the promise of lasting change and the potential for rebuilding what had been so nearly lost. As the first light of dawn filtered through the broken windows, casting golden hues over the debris of conflict, a fragile peace began to settle over the gallery. The battle was over, yet the scars remained, a reminder of the tumultuous journey that had led them to this moment. In that bittersweet silence, Adrien and Lily shared a look that conveyed both the triumph of their victory and the lingering uncertainties of what lay ahead. The legacy of the Carter family had been defended, and the dark conspiracies that once threatened to consume them had been exposed to the unforgiving light of truth. But as the echoes of the final battle faded into the morning light, the future remained shrouded in mystery, a tapestry still in the process of being woven, with new challenges waiting on the horizon. The path forward was uncertain, but with unity and unwavering resolve, they knew they were ready to face whatever storms might come. As the golden hues of a new dawn bathed the once battered gallery in a soft, hopeful light, Lily and Adrien found themselves standing at the threshold of a future unburdened by old chains. The long, tumultuous journey that had begun with shattered legacies and bitter betrayals had finally led them to a place of understanding and renewal, a place where love, sacrifice, and loyalty intertwined to forge a new beginning. In the quiet, aftermath of chaos, as the echoes of conflict faded into tender memories, Lily reflected on the painful lessons learned along the way. She remembered the days when the weight of her father's legacy seemed insurmountable, when every decision was a struggle between preserving a cherished past and confronting a present riddled with deception. But through the storm of public humiliation, secret conspiracies, and the relentless pressure of external enemies, she discovered that true strength lay not in clinging to what was lost, but in embracing the possibility of what could be rebuilt. Each scar was a testament to her resilience, a symbol of the sacrifices made, and the profound transformation that had reshaped her heart. Adrien, once seen as the enigmatic architect of dark designs, had also undergone a metamorphosis. In the crucible of betrayal and confrontation, he had revealed layers of vulnerability previously masked by a cold exterior. Through his quiet confessions, and the moments when his stoic facade faltered, Adrien had come to understand that true power was measured not by control over others, but by the capacity to stand beside someone in truth and trust. His journey had been one of redemption, a gradual shedding of the burdens of a tainted past, replaced by a fierce commitment to protect what truly mattered, the promise of a future shared with Lily. Together, they forged a bond that transcended the rigid confines of a binding contract, a bond defined by mutual respect, shared pain, and the determination to create something lasting out of the ruins. No longer were they two separate souls bound by an arrangement of necessity. They had become partners, united in their struggle and emboldened by their common vision. Their hearts, once heavy with the remnants of shattered dreams, now beat in harmony with a steady, unyielding hope. In the days that followed the final confrontation, the gallery transformed from a haunted repository of a troubled past into a vibrant symbol of rebirth. The once damaged walls, which had borne witness to family secrets and dark conspiracies, were slowly restored and repainted, a physical manifestation of the healing that had taken place within their hearts. Every brushstroke on the newly revived canvases echoed with the promise of new beginnings, a reminder that even after the fiercest storms, beauty could emerge anew. The journey was not without its losses. Both Lily and Adrien carried the weight of sacrifices made along the way, lost opportunities, fractured relationships, and the enduring pain of betrayal. Yet, in those quiet moments of reflection, they recognized that every loss had paved the way for a deeper understanding of themselves and of each other. The bitter taste of regret was gradually replaced by a gratitude for the hard-won lessons that had brought them to this point. As they stood together one serene evening, watching the sun set over a horizon that hinted at endless possibilities, Lily's voice broke the reflective silence. "We've been through so much," she whispered, her eyes shimmering with both tears and the radiant glow of newfound strength. "I've learned that the past, no matter how painful, doesn't have to define us. We have the power to write a new story, a story filled with honesty, love, and hope." Adrien's response was soft, yet resolute. "Our journey wasn't meant to trap us in old shadows," he replied. "Instead, it was designed to lead us here, to this moment where we can finally embrace a future unbound by contracts or the ghosts of yesterday. We have the chance to build something genuine, something that honors all we've endured and every sacrifice we made." Their words, laden with the weight of their shared experiences, resonated like a promise to the future. In that tender exchange, it was clear that the days of manipulation and dark secrets were behind them. The echoes of past betrayals would always remain, a reminder of the price of truth. But now, with hearts unshackled and spirits uplifted, they looked forward with determination to a life defined by choice and authentic connection. In the end, the tale of Lily and Adrien was not merely one of conflict and hardship. It was a testament to the indomitable human spirit. It was a saga of how, in the face of overwhelming adversity, two souls could rise above the constraints of their past and step boldly into a future of their own making. Their journey, with all its heartbreak and heroism, served as a powerful reminder that every ending is also a beginning, a chance to start over, to redefine one's destiny, and to build a brighter, unburdened tomorrow. And so, as the gallery, doors opened onto a world bathed in the soft light of hope, Lily and Adrien stepped forward together, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. Their legacy, now a tapestry woven with threads of resilience, love, and renewal, promised not only to heal old wounds, but to inspire a new era of trust and transformation. A future where the past no longer held them captive, and where every new day was a testament to the enduring power of the human heart.